Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cryptid Podcast, where we track down the country's most chilling cryptid encounters, one eerie story at a time. And tonight, guys, we've got a great guest. We've got Dano Hamilton from the Cryptid Podcast himself. And I'm going to bring him up and we're going to start talking to him. Hey, Daniel, how's it going, buddy?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. You kind of caught me looking on my phone. I got to send some emails out and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm doing. Oh, say here. I'm doing pretty good, man.
Good.
Good work week. Busy doing this. Yeah.
So you just had a great interview on your channel. You kind of want to describe that?
Yeah, you guys. I had a very well-known author in the cryptid community. Her name is Luca T. Jacobs. She's from Australia. And she does a lot of fictional writing about Dogman and Bigfoot primarily. She has one book out. It's called Monsters Among Us, where she compiles real life encounters from people around the United States. It's called Monsters Among Us, and it's on audiobook. A lot of her stuff's on Amazon. So, and I became an instant fan as soon as I listened to Monsters Among Us on audiobook. I'm gonna start buying her book. I really interview was awesome, great person, and it just makes me want to support her even more, get her stuff out there as well. So,
yeah, it was a great interview. I first seen her on DA's channel, and
yeah,
looks like she's got a lot of great books out.
I'll
be honest, I haven't got to read any of them yet, but that's on my to-do list.
Yeah, for sure.
So Josh, or excuse me, sorry, Daniel. I was thinking about Josh.
You're good.
But Daniel, we've got a mutual friend named Joshua Smith, and they're going through a really tough time right now. And
him and his wife.
Him and his wife. Do you want to kind of explain what you've got going on for them right now?
Sure. I have I started a GoFundMe for Josh and his wife. And if you guys don't know Josh is a very, very humble person. And for me to even get him to agree on this GoFundMe fundraiser for him and his wife, I almost had to beg and almost threaten violence, because him and his wife Stacy are the type of people who, even if they have nothing to give you but the shirt off their back, they would give you that shirt and would never ask you for anything in return. They just never would. His wife Stacy suffers from mold toxicity, and her condition is very, very extreme. They've had to move in the last year and a half. They've had to move like 9 to 12 times, easily a dozen times. Even once they moved out west to Idaho, giving everything up that they have. And when I say they gave up everything, it's not because they just want to voluntarily give it up. Because the mold toxicity is as bad as it is, they had to throw away everything or sell what they could sell. And when I say throw away everything, Stacy's daughter passed away. All she had left, other than the memories and pictures on her phone, but other things from her her daughter's childhood, she had to throw all away because it was all contaminated or had the possibility of being contaminated. Josh had to throw away stuff that, Stacy also threw away letters Josh had written her. Josh threw away letters that Stacy had written him. School projects that his daughter had made for him. He had to throw all of that away. So they're literally starting with a new slate each time they have to move. And when I mean that, they go out and they buy a couch. Well, they've got to sell the couch or they throw it away. And I'm talking everything. So I started the GoFundMe. They had to move, and I'm not divulging where they're at for safety reasons. Stacy has a stalker, and he tends to find her when he is able to get out of the facility that he's being held in. So for her safety, I'm not saying where they moved to, but they moved to where her doctor is, and the area that he's in. You wouldn't think it's a good area because of how the environment is, but it's actually really good for her. And through all the moves that they've had to do, they've exhausted they've exhausted their life savings because they have to start over. I remember in a 6 month time frame, they moved 5 times. In one apartment building, they moved to 3 different apartments, and when the third apartment didn't work, they had to move to another apartment, totally different apartment building. That didn't work, and then they finally, you know what? We did some research. Idaho is the place we should go. This is a good place, and um, it wasn't. It wasn't a good place for them. So they moved back to Arkansas, got an apartment. The apartment building itself was only 6 months old. Um, the apartment that they rented, they were the only tenants to ever rent that apartment. So they were the first people to rent that apartment. Uh, After the first month, she started showing signs of mold toxicity. And they have a friend who has one of those dogs that can smell mold. And they brought her in, and the dog hit on a few areas in the house. And they hit in one area where the washer and dryer was. And what's really weird is that their bedroom is, say, here,
Right.
and then the washer and dryer is like right next to their bedroom. It's like you have to walk by the washer and dryer to get to the bathroom. So it's right in that area. And the inspector pulled up the flooring and found black mold, not just in a little area, but it was on the subflooring, completely
Man.
covered the small subflooring, the studs inside the wall. It was creeping up the wall, all because they had put when they build this apartment, when they finished the apartment up, they put an in the wall permanent bookshelf, and one of their finishing nails, whatever, punctured a water line uh, on the other side of the wall, and it leaked and it leaked and it leaked. It leaked for three months, it was still leaking when they left, but it had 3 or 4 months of solid leaking, uh, and they never realized it. They didn't check on it. The apartment people didn't. And so the apartment people were really kind enough to try to move into another apartment, which was even worse than the first apartment. For her, they said, we'll give you back, 1 month's rent and your deposit. So they moved, and in the progress of their move, she received her blood work back, and the mold levels in her brain, in her body, in her blood was literally off the charts. And they sent it to the doctor. The doctor says there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You need to get her down here. And she goes through episodes of mood swings. She has rashes. She loses her hair. Her cognitive uh, um, thoughts are all over the place. She'll be going to a store with Josh because that's where she wanted to go, and halfway through getting to the store, she has no clue where she is, no clue what they're doing. She's had suicidal thoughts because of this, and so the area they're at, uh, they're starting with nothing. They had to live in a couple of hotels. They were able to get an apartment. And so, but they are literally living, you know, not even paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's that bad. So I set up a GoFundMe. It's called Help Save Stacy, Extreme Mold Toxicity. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up here and show you guys. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get it. Let's see here. A second. Here we go. I'll see if What am I looking for? Okay, here we go. So here it is. If you guys can see that, that's the QR code. It says, so if you guys want to scan that QR code, if you want to, if it works, if not, go to GoFundMe and do a search for Help Save Stacy Mold Toxicity Crisis. Look that up in the search menu or search bar. And if you guys can give a donation, that'd be fantastic. It all goes to Josh and Stacy. I'm not getting anything for it. I don't want anything for it. I don't even really want recognition for it. He's my brother. That's what family does. If you can't donate, please share it and some words of prayer, and that helps out more than you know.
Thank you for talking about that, Dano.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, another way you might be able to help support Josh, and definitely prayers help a lot.
Absolutely.
But if you could go to his Mysteries Unknown channel, just watch the shows, comment on the shows, like the shows, share the shows.
Sub if you're not subbed.
Sub, and maybe even consider becoming a member.
Absolutely.
All those things could help Stacy, and they really need it. Josh would give the shirt off of his back to somebody in need. So I really think a lot of them. So Daniel, let's talk about some cryptids, eh?
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about what got you into this field.
Podcasting or the cryptid community?
We'll start with the crypt. Let's talk about how you got into cryptids first, then we'll talk about the podcast.
Sure. So when I was a little kid, I probably about 10, maybe 11, is when I first remember seeing the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I was like, man, that is so cool. There's a Bigfoot, what is that? And I saw it and I was super stoked about it. It just caught my attention, just immediately caught my attention. Went to school, during school library time, I would go to the library and I would look for anything that had to do with Bigfoot, anything. And I remember it was only one book, and the book had like Nessie in it, and the Abominable Snowman and Bigfoot, but I didn't really care about everything else. It was Bigfoot that caught my attention, and that's what I just paid attention to. So pretty much for the entire school year, I had that book checked out. I'd bring it back when I needed to, then I would check it right back out, and keep it as long as I could. So all the kids that I went to school with that maybe wanted to read that book, sorry. No, really, I'm not sorry.
But that was Daniel's book.
Yeah, I should have just kept it and had my mom and dad pay for it. But and then that kind of got my attention, and then I had my sighting when I was 12. Before the sighting, my dad, my parents were divorced when I was real young, so my dad was like the hub. I think I look at my life kind of like a wagon wheel in a way. So in the center of that wagon wheel is the hub, and that's where my dad was. My dad was rock solid. My dad was the foundation. I primarily lived with my dad most of my life. Endured, 3 stepmoms, numerous step siblings. With my mom, a couple stepdads, no step siblings. So when I was a kid, I was always out and about, riding bikes, riding skateboards, exploring any woods that were near me and around my house. Whether I was living with my dad or my mom, I was always out and about, always just doing things. And it opened up my world, a lot of kids nowadays, man, their face is buried in this. Yep. Or video games, or and it's different for me now. I'm 53 years old. I'll stick my nose in this all day long if I want to, you know.
Right.
I'll play video games if I want to, you know. I'm at the age now where I got grown up money, so I'll do what I want to do, you
There you
know.
go.
But you know, I just you know, this is one of the few times that my dad was single, and my stepfather and we really did not get along. Like there was zero time for me, and I had zero time for him. I didn't give a flip about him at that time. Now I grew to love my stepdad very much. Um, he's been gone since 2003. He still left a massive void in my life. I'm sad because I only got 20 years with him, but uh,
Sorry for your loss, buddy.
yeah, you know, it was a long time ago. Man, I was 30. I was 31 years old when he passed away. You know, my daughter was just, um, my daughter was just barely 1 years old, so she never got a chance to know him. And you know, as I got older and I joined the military, our relationship just got stronger and stronger, and we got closer and closer. Um, but before all that time, we just did not get along. We got together like oil and water, man. It just didn't mix. And so we moved back with my dad. My dad was single. And I'll tell you, life with my dad when he was single was fantastic, man. It was awesome. When my dad was married, um, yeah, not so much, you know, because then I had somebody else. And I'm gonna be selfish here, you know. Um, that's my dad. My dad
Right.
was my best friend, and I wanted any free time he had, I wanted it for myself. You know, I wanted to do things with my dad. I wanted to learn from my dad. He was a very hard worker, and there's no doubt about how much he loved me. I knew he did, but it's just whenever some lady came in and had kids tagging along, you know, it was like, Nope, I'm just put me in the broom closet and shut the door." That's the way I felt. Everybody else got the attention, but so when he was single, it was awesome because he had time for us and, only us. So, we moved back with my dad, uh, Graham, Washington. It was like 1980, 1984, um, and we lived in this adult RV park. My dad didn't want us, you know, growing up or living in an area like that too long. It was just like older people, retired people, you
Yeah.
know, and, you know, he's like, you know, this is, you know, there's rules of this park, you know, they're boys. They don't need to have rules like this. You know, they need to be able to go out and do what they run and there's woods and do all the stupid stuff. Right. So he comes and picks us up from my aunt and uncle's house who lived in Tacoma, and we drive by this RV park. We're like, "Well, where are you going?" He was like, "I got something to show you boys." So he drives, you know, a few miles down the road, and then turns right, drives a couple miles down the road, then turns right again, then drives a few more miles down the road, then turns right again onto this gravel road, you know. And I was super stoked. I'm like, "Oh, well, where are we going?" And he pulls up into this driveway, and there's the camper. We lived in a fifth wheel, and it had a really nice sized deck. The deck was about, I want to say, about three quarters of the size, as long as the fifth wheel, and easily as twice as wide. So it was a big deck. Had a big pole on one corner with a platform up there. My dad was an avid bird watcher and loved watching birds, so he's going to put a bird feeder up on top so he could sit at this window and just take pictures, write down in his notebook. And you know, he could hear a bird. He'd, "Oh, that's a such and such. Oh, that's a blue belly wobbler or whatever." And I'm like, "What?" You know. And so, you know, he's like, "Hey boys, it's 5 acres of land here." It was all woods, all woods. And he says, "You know, yeah, I cleared this whole area over here. This is where we're going to build a house." And he wanted to build an A-frame house, you know, just perfect for him, me, and my brother. You know, he'd have his room, me and my brother would have our own rooms, and it would be perfect. And so I'm laying in the camper. And if anybody doesn't know what a fifth wheel is, fifth wheel has a loft on top that, you know, extends out. You can't stand up in it. You can put a mattress on the floor up there, big enough for 2 twin-size mattresses with enough room between the two to move around in between them, right? And so I slept on the side that was closest to the woods. My brother slept on the side that was closest to the deck. And I remember this night, it was so stormy, just massive claps of thunder, bright flashes of lightning, wind rocking trees, rocking the fifth wheel, and the rain. The rain was just coming down in sheets. And it's on top, it's if you ever slept in a camper and it's raining super heavy, there's no other sound like it. It's amazing. Well, I'm wide awake because of the thunder and the lightning and stuff, and I feel the wind move a little bit, and then it feels like our camper just does this and then comes back down like real hard. And
Wow.
I'm like, what the heck was that? And I pull this curtain open that's right by my bed, and a flash of lightning hits right at the right time, and I see something walking off into the woods. Walked underneath this tree, underneath this limb, and walked off into the woods. And Dad, there's a Bigfoot out there, and he's like, oh, there's no, shut up, you're gonna wake your brother up, and blah blah blah. And the whole night, I was afraid to look out that window. And I think I finally, went to sleep, and got up the next morning. My brother's still sleeping as I'm walking outside because I want to see, if I could find some tracks or something. I walk out the door off the deck, and my dad comes out behind me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Dad, I'm telling you, there was a Bigfoot last night. It tried to tip over the camper." He's like, "Daniel, Anthony, it was not a I'm like, "Yes, it was. It was." I go, "Dad, it walked right underneath that tree. Its head was almost touching that limb." And he's like, "No." I go, "Yes, it was." And so I go walking over to the woods and said, "See, look, something came through here," but you couldn't really make anything out because literally it rained all night long. It did not let up. And he's like, how tall, where did his head touch? And so he goes and he gets a tape measure, and he starts taping up, and he puts the tape measure, and he goes, "Tell me when to stop." And so I say, "Stop." And he goes down and he looks and he goes, "There's no way you saw something that big." I go, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "Daniel, that's almost 9 feet tall around there." I'm going, "No." I said, "Dad, I saw it. I watched it." He's like, "No, you didn't." And so I turned around. I was mad because I know what I saw. My dad was pretty much telling me I'm full of crap. I didn't see that. And it kind of hurt my feelings. And so I turn around and I start walking towards, to go around the camper. And then I see it. I see this massive dent in the side of the camper. And I go, "Well, what made that? Look at that." And my dad walks over and he looks. He's like, "Holy smokes." And I go, "Dad, look." And some of the anchoring straps that he had on the camper were completely pulled up out of the ground.
Man.
And then some of the cement blocks that he had built like a little cement block foundation kind of. And some of those were crushed, were broken. And he goes, "Well, just don't tell your brother." I go, "Dad, it was a Bigfoot." He goes, "I'm not saying, I don't know. I don't think that's what it was, but just don't tell your brother." And then my little brother comes walking. He goes, "Tell me what? Tell me what?" And my dad, just as faster than I could say what I wanted to say, he goes, "Oh, a tree limb hit the camper last night." And he goes, "Oh, that's what that noise was." Right. So it woke him up, but he just didn't react to it.
Right.
So, that was, I want to say, in like right before spring break time. And so spring break, we spent the whole week down at my aunt and uncle's house in Tacoma. And we were coming home. It was a Saturday night, and my dad and I were in the front seats. He was driving. I was in the front driver's seat, passenger seat, and my brother was sleeping in the back seat of the car. And there were no lights on this gravel road. The only street light that we had was at the very beginning of the gravel road, where the gravel road and the paved road met. Okay. And we had seen deer and coyote, and I believe there was a pack of wild dogs running around there. But you'd see porcupine, all these other types of wildlife. And so my dad bought some driving lights, that instead of they were facing like out and down or whatever straight ahead, he had them angled out as far as he could so he could get a very clear view of the both sides of the road. And so when you come off of the road, it kind of dips down a little bit, goes down like a very minor grade, then it levels out, then it has a little rise, then it levels out a little bit, then it dips down again. And it does that like 3 times, maybe 4 times. I can't really remember, until it gets to right before our property starts where you can turn in, right? And as we come off this paved road, my dad's headlights are on, and I see eye shine way, way ahead up on this gravel road. Now, back in the day, as a kid, 12-year-old kid, I'm thinking this gravel road is like 5 miles long. It's not. In reality, it's maybe a mile and a half. It'd be pushing 2 miles, But again, I'm 12 years old. I think this is one of the longest gravel roads. I used to ride my go-kart mini bike up and down this road all the time, getting stupid, My little brother sitting on the back of my mini bike or sitting next to me in the go-kart, just getting dumb, no helmet, no seat. 2 boys out in the country, out in the woods, just doing what boys do. And so I say, Dad, there's something up ahead, And he's like, oh, it'll move. It'll move. It'll see us come. It'll hear us come. It'll move. I'm like, okay. So, we go up that rise. There it is. I go, Dad, it's still there. And he's like, no, it'll move. It's going to hear us come. It'll move. So we go down. And each time we went down this little dip, I'd lose sight of it. And so we come back up the second one, and now it's there still. And I'm like, Dad, turn your brights on. It's still there. It's not gonna leave. It's still there. And he's like, oh, well, it'll move. I go, Dad, just turn your lights on. Well, we go down this dip, and just as we come up on this rise, just as we start getting ready to crest it, he turns the brights on and he turns these driving lights on. And when we get level, no more than 20, 25 feet on the passenger side of the car, in front of the car, is this female Sasquatch. She was kind of hunkered down. She stood straight up. And Wyatt, I'm telling you right now, man, I did not think that she was ever going to stop standing up. She just kept going and kept going and kept going. And she turned it like her torso. She turned her torso and she went like this to like block her face. But you could see the hair from her forearms hanging down, the hair down here. Her face was pretty much bare. It was black skin. The eyes didn't remain eye shine. They were like black eyes.
I've heard that before.
Thin upper lip. Her nose was like a human nose, but wider. Did have hair down here, but like most of her face, pronounced brow ridge. The best way I can describe her body-wise is she looked like Patty, but she wasn't as robust, And when she turned, you could see her breast. Now, they weren't bare. There was still hair covering, but it was a lot thinner hair. Her color was like a dark charcoal grayish color. And as soon as she started turning back this way, I immediately went down into the floorboard of the car. It terrified me. But in a sense, I'm having like a conflicting battle within myself because I only thought these things were like in Northern California.
Right.
Maybe on the outside chance, wandered up into Oregon somewhere. But there's no way it would go all the way up across the Columbia River, then all the way up, up to Graham, Washington. Never in a million years would I thought that. I always hoped, up to that time when I first saw the Patterson Gimlin film and, saw that book in the library. And so, one, I'm terrified because here's this thing that should not exist, but exists. And 2, I'm super excited because holy crap, they're here in Washington, Holy crap. So my dad, he never sped up and he never slowed down. He just was a constant speed. And when I thought that we were past where she was standing, I peeked up and looked out the passenger side window. And the way the lights were still angled, there was still ambient light coming off of this. Now, it wasn't as bright as it was right in front, but you just like a peripheral of this light, there she was, right there in the tree line looking at us. And I watched her blink her eyes. And my dad kept driving about maybe another 200 meters, maybe that, turned into our driveway. My dad didn't have a chance to stop the car before I was out and running in front of the house, or running in front of the car. Had my keys out. I jumped up the 4 steps. And so the 4 steps are probably a good 3 feet up on the ground. So I jumped 3 feet up in the air, cleared all the steps, ran to the door, unlocked it, ran into the camper, and jumped on my dad's bed. A couple seconds later, I hear my dad's door slam, and I hear him walking up the steps, walking across the deck, coming in, and he looks at me, but he's holding my little brother. My little brother is just, he's out. You could set a bomb off in front of him while he's sleeping, and he wouldn't wake up. Puts my brother up onto bed. He comes down. He looks at me again, and he's just grabbing food, fruits, vegetables, whatever. Goes outside, puts it on this little table that's on the deck. Then I hear him walk off the deck, opens up the shed. I hear him pull a ladder out. He comes walking back up, puts the ladder up, puts all the food up there, gets down, comes in the house, grabs a rag from underneath the sink, pulls like this tube out of his back pocket. I'm like, what is that? And he starts squirting it into this rag, climbs on the ladder, and he's greasing the pole. That's what it was. Right. It was some type of grease. So he greased this pole, took the ladder down, put the ladder up, comes back in the house. And I'm like, Dad, why did you do that? And he goes, what? I go, why did you put that stuff on the pole? And he goes, oh, that's to keep animals away from that food up there. And for a second, my mind just like turned the page, so to speak, change the channel, if you will. I go, what do you mean? So, like, you mean like raccoons? And he's like, yep, exactly. So raccoons don't get that food. That made all the sense in the world to me.
Exactly.
That made, for whatever just happened 20 minutes earlier, absolutely 100% made 100% sense to me. And it took my mind off of what had just happened. Right? So he comes back in. I'm still sitting on his bed. And it never dawned on me why he was putting that food up there. So I'm still sitting on the bed. And he goes into the bathroom, comes back out, grabs his pack of smokes, and walks out on the deck. Now, my dad was a smoker, but he never smoked in the camper with us, you know. And so he closes the door, not all the way. It's still partially open. And he's out there smoking. Well, also I hear him talking. And, oh, sorry about that, man.
You're good.
I hear him saying something to the we saw you and we know you saw us. These are my boys. We're family. We don't mean any disrespect. We don't mean any harm. We just want to build a house here and have our family. And, please, this food up here is for you. Please don't hurt my boys. Don't scare my boys. Something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what he said verbatim. So, takes the last drag off his cigarette, throws it in the butt can, and he comes walking in. And I had jumped from the door onto his bed. He slept on a queen size sofa sleeper. He just left it open. It was just 3 guys. Who cares? We're all bachelors,
Exactly.
And I go, Dad, who were you talking to out there? And he's like, oh, I wasn't talking. I was praying. And I go, well, I didn't hear you say amen. And he goes, oh, okay. Amen. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying, my dad's entire life, as long as I knew my dad, I knew my dad, 30, 40 something years, my dad passed away in 2014. I never knew my dad to go to church. Never heard my dad pray a day in his life, ever. And, that kind of, now looking back on it, that kind of was odd. But I think he was doing it all just to protect us, to make it, hey, it's okay, guys. Everything's going to be fine, So, he goes back in and he brushes his teeth and, he's getting ready for bed. And he goes, do you want to sleep with me tonight, buddy? I go, yes, please. Can I sleep with you tonight? Absolutely. So I'm laying in bed with him and I know I fall asleep. And my dad had one of those old alarm clocks, were like this big.
Yeah, like this long.
Yeah, exactly. They were brown and black usually, and
Yep.
they had red numbers. And so that left off some ambient light in the trailer, so I could see pretty well. And I remember hearing this noise, like something massive, something heavy was stepping up onto the deck. You know that sound, like you hear wood like crack. People say the wood moans and creaks and cracks and stuff like that under extreme pressure or weight. And that's what I was hearing. My eyes, I just shot wide awake. And I look over, and it was roughly around the 1 o'clock, maybe 1:30 time frame. And I look over at my dad. My dad's going like this. He's putting his fingers over his mouth, kind of tell me to be quiet. And I hear this thing, whatever it is, walking across the deck. Now I have my back rest up against the wall of the camper, and the walls of the camper may be that thick, right? Not
Yeah.
even a foot thick. And I hear something and feel something run along that wall that I've got my back rested up against. And it freaked me out. And I immediately I started crying. And I kind of got my face buried in my dad's, like shoulder. And he's reaching like this behind him because he's kind of on his side. He has a firearm out. And he's reaching over trying to pull me in closer, trying to say, hey man, it's okay. He wasn't talking, but his actions, I get that he was trying to protect me and comfort me at the same time and let me know that everything was going to be okay. And I know I was crying. And then I heard, and again, this is a really, really poor example of it. But I heard something like, something like that. So I heard a vocalization.
Gave me chill bumps.
And I know I all I remember is almost losing it. My dad like holding me as best he could. And I know I fell asleep. I cried myself to sleep. Because the next thing I remember is we had this window on the door of the camper. It was like a bathroom window. So you can't see in it, you can't see out, but light can go in and out. The light can reflect from in and out.
Yeah.
And the sun is hitting that light, and it's kind of peeking through the little crack in the curtains. And I was laying now with my head at the foot of the bed, and that light was hitting me. And so I woke up, and I realized it was morning. So I got up, and I walked outside. And I did something I wasn't supposed to do because, you figure how high those steps are. So you're looking at about maybe 3 feet high at the bottom of the deck. The decking is level with the door, but then there's like another 4-foot railing. So 7 feet up, I jump on top of this railing, which I was not supposed to do because it was maybe this thin. So I was acting like I was a trapeze artist or a high wire act, and I jumped up on that railing, and I looked, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw no food up there. Like it was all gone. And so I jump off, and that's what I think woke my dad up, was him hearing me jump off and hitting the deck. And I started yelling, Dad, it's all gone. It's all gone. The food, it's all gone. And he comes out, and he's mad as hell because I woke him up, and he knew I was on the deck. And were you just on that deck? And I go, Dad, the food's all gone. And my dad's like, what? So he's kind of like walking back a little bit so we can get a better vantage view of it. And now this time I'm looking over at the pole, and I could see that something had grabbed this pole in different areas. And I go, Dad, oh my gosh, they touched the pole. Look, there's prints over here. And he's like, what? And I go, look, something ran its finger down. And you could tell where someone had taken its finger and ran it all the way down and then wiped its finger that grease off on the railing. And I go, Dad, look at this. Look at this. He's like, listen, do not tell your brother. He doesn't need to know this. Don't scare him. He doesn't know what's going on. So as much as it killed me to hold it away from my brother, I didn't tell my brother, because I learned real quick with my dad that if my dad tells me to do something, you better darn well do it, or there'll be some butt whippings, handed out. And so as time went on, riding our go-karts, riding our mini bikes, whatever, there had been other encounters. You'd catch brief glimpses of something out of the corner of your eye. And this one summer day, my brother, it was a Saturday, because my dad and I and my brother were all supposed to go to the lake to do some fishing. But he had to postpone it until later, because he had to do inventory for the company that he worked for. So he did that on Saturday. And so my brother and I, we got the door of the camper open up. We got music playing, and he's playing Atari 2600. I was never good at stuff like that. My little brother was always great at it. And I hear my dad.
I loved Atari. I wasn't very good at it. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're good. I mean, my brother played games. Like, if it was like, I don't know, Asteroids or something like that, or Space Invaders, I was good at. But when it came to stuff like Defender or Asteroids, where it got really super fast, my brother's eye-hand coordination was stupid crazy. I mean, I've seen my brother get crazy scores on those games, and me, I'd be like, can't do it, But I'm sitting on the floor by the door, and I hear my dad's car pull up, and I look at the clock, and it's like 4:30, 5 o'clock. So I know we're not going fishing. I know we're not. And I hear him do something that he never did, because my dad, it was like a 71, like Mach 1 or something like that. It was a really nice Mustang. He slammed the car door like hard. And I hear him go, God dang it. Blah. He's not saying God dang it, though. What the F and this? And he comes up, he's like, Daniel. And I go, what? And he's like, get out here right now. And he meets me on the deck. He's like, what happened to the burn barrel? Because back in the day, we didn't have trash service. We had to burn our garbage, right? And we had a big 55-gallon drum that my dad had emptied like 2 20-pound bags of sand, playground sand on the bottom. So if we had bad winds, it wouldn't whip over or anything like that. It wouldn't get knocked over by accident. And I go, I don't know. What are you talking about? I didn't burn any garbage today. He's like, well, then where's the burn barrel? I go, what are you talking? Dad, how do I know? I didn't do anything with it. He goes, come over here and look at this. So I fall him off, and he's mad. I could tell my dad is ready to give me a beating because of something that I guess I did. I don't know. And he goes, look at that. Where's the burn barrel? And then I go, I don't know. I don't know where the burn barrel is. Now I'm writing checks with my mouth that my butt ain't going to be able to cover. I'm getting smart with my dad. But again, it made me mad because he wasn't believing me. Like, I honestly did not know where this freaking burn barrel was. He's like, well, it just didn't get up and walk away. And when he said that, I go, I bet you that Bigfoot took it. He's like, it did not take it. I'm telling you right now, stop saying that, Dad. It did not. I go, Dad, we saw one.
Exactly.
And he's like, well, then let's go look for it. So he goes looking towards the back of the camper, right? I don't know why. Something just drew me to walk it into the woods. So I walked into the woods where I thought I had seen that first one that tried to tip over the camper. I get about 30 feet into the woods, and what do I find? The burn barrel. Laying on its side, like something had thrown it into the woods, like just chucked it, right? And I go, Dad. He's like, yeah. I go, I found it. He goes, you found what? I go, the burn barrel. I go, it's in the woods. He comes running over there. He's like, well, how in the hell did it get into the woods? I go, Dad, I don't know. I told you, tell me to shut up. That's what happened. He goes, well, we got to move this back. I go, Dad, I don't even weigh 100 pounds. That thing easily weighs more than 100 pounds. How am I going to move that? He's like, just come on, help me move it. So we tipped it up, and he started rolling it and put it back in place. And he looks at me, and we're walking back towards the front of the camper. And He's like, listen, do not tell your brother. Don't. And my brother comes walking around again because he hears a commotion going on outside. So he wants to be nosy. So he comes out and he's like, tell me what? And before I could say anything, it was already coming out of my mouth.
Snap of a finger.
A Bigfoot threw the burn barrel in the woods. And what did I get for that? Whack! My dad popped me in the back of the head. He goes, damn it, Daniel. And before my dad could say anything, my little brother goes, well, I don't think it was one of the little ones that I saw. And then me and my dad are like, wait, what? and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, I see two little ones once in a while. He goes, I've seen it probably about, 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And he goes, yeah. My dad's like, well, explain, what are you talking about, son? What? And he's like, well, whenever we put the speakers out on the deck and we're out there cooking or we're playing games, I see them. I see them come from over here, and then they walk along the tree line just inside the trees, and then they sit down. And they usually sit down right over there, and he's pointing to where they sit. And he goes, yeah, he goes, if you see them, you know where they're sitting. But if you don't see them, you will never know where they're sitting. And he goes, yeah, I've thrown a couple of baseballs, a couple of tennis balls out there, hoping they would throw them back to me. But when I go out there, I can't find them. I can't find them at all. And so I'm like blown away. And so after that happened, after that incident, my brother and I, we would walk, we'd build a tree house, and it was probably a good, I don't know, maybe 15 yards into the woods along this little path on the left-hand side of the path. And it was about 15 feet up in the air. And so we'd climb up in the tree and the tree fort, and there'd be times where we would just get this really weird feeling. And I'd look at my brother, and he'd look at me, and he'd be like, yeah, we should go back to the house. And we'd get out of there. We'd Dee Mao out of there real quick, And there was a time that I remember looking out the window, and probably about 75, maybe 75 yards, maybe, if that, I saw this massive thing standing behind this tree, and it kind of peeked out, and then it realized I was watching it, and it'd go like this. Then it kind of peek around like this, and I'd see it again, and he'd pop back up, but it never showed any aggression. And I'm thinking, I'm not thinking, I know we had a family unit, and the one that we saw out there in the woods peeking around the tree, I think that was the dad, the alpha male. Because whenever he was around, you get this real weird feeling, like the whole dynamic of the surrounding area around you just had this really, like, it wasn't like a feeling of fear or dread. It was just like the weight of the air changed. Like there was something there. And I believe that he was just kind of checking on us, making sure we didn't do things stupid. The one that hit the camper, I believe, was like the older sibling of the two smaller ones, like a young adult, just trying to show us that he's a bad MFer. And then the female, of course, the mom, and then the two juveniles. My brother said at one time he had walked out to get up in the treehouse because he said he left something up there. And as he got maybe 25 feet from the treehouse, he said he saw one of the young ones jump out of the door of the treehouse and was like already at a dead sprint when it hit the ground, and just took off through the woods. And he says, I just stopped, I turned around, and I walked right back to the camper.
Time to get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then October of that year, my dad was involved in 85. So the following year. So October of 85, my dad was involved in a really bad accident. He almost lost his life. Car accident.
I'm sorry, buddy.
And I get a call from my dad, and it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. We still have to go to school, and he calls, and I answer the phone. He's like, Daniel? I go, hey, Dad. I go, what are you doing? He's like, I just want you to know I'm okay, but I was in a really bad car accident. He goes, I'm at work, but I'm on my way to the hospital. I called your aunt. She's going to be coming to pick you up. So kind of pick up the place and pack your stuff up that you're going to need for work, because we're going to be staying with them in Tacoma for a little while. Like, okay. So I tell my brother, and he doesn't want to get up. And so I tell him that Dad was in a bad car accident. He's like, "You're a liar, whatever." And I'm like, "No, really, he was." And so we kind of cleaned up and we packed everything up that we thought we needed. And probably about 9 or 10, my aunt shows up. We get in the car and we leave. And so the next spring is the next time that we saw that. And my dad unfortunately couldn't work, so he lost the property. He had sold the camper, and so we needed to go there and clean it out because the people that were going to come and who had bought it were going to come and pick it up. And so we all went out there, and I didn't really take anything because I had already grabbed everything I really wanted or needed, But I walked around outside, and I'm not going to lie, I was sad.
Oh,
But
yeah, I would have been too.
I noticed something though. I noticed that there was prints on the windows that were like this, like something was trying to look into the camper. And what's really weird is the ones that were up by the loft, those are pretty high up. Now it'd be easy for something to look in on the side where the deck is, but not on the side where I slept because there was no deck.
Yeah.
And so I walked all the way around and looked at all the windows, and there was those prints all over the windows, like they were trying to look in. And I like to think that they were, hey, these humans were here one day and now they're gone. Where'd they go? I've Google mapped that area, Google Earthed it, and it doesn't have like shopping malls and things, but there's a lot more houses in the area. The woods are almost gone. Which is pretty sad. And, and when I told this story a couple times, a few years ago, people was like, "Oh, you had a perfect opportunity to take all the pictures you wanted because you were having interactions with them and all those things." And I was like, "Listen, man, I was 12 years old. Yeah, my dad had a camera, but I'm a Gen Xer. And when your dad tells you not to touch something if it doesn't belong to you, you don't touch it. Because a beating's coming."
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And it wasn't like, "Oh, come here, son. Let me put you in a timeout. Now, gosh darn it, Daniel. I told you." No, it was a whack. That's what it was. What did I tell? Every word. What did I tell you? You learned real quick.
Sometimes it was the syllables too. What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Maybe one or two pops would have worked, but no, if you had to be told more than once, then your butt was on fire, And so that was everything that happened at that property, So
Man, that's crazy. So you think there was a family group there? I was thinking about this today. Was the mother ever around? Like, did you ever get like a maternal instinct around
yes.
her whenever
Yep.
she was around?
When it was mostly when we would see her like out of the corner of our eye or whatever, is when we were riding our mini bikes or our go-kart. Because we rode those things like bats out of hell. Like there was no break. It was full throttle all the time. And we'd go whipping up and down this gravel road. And then we had trails in the woods we'd go whipping through. And I remember my brother saying, "Look, there she is, there she is, there she is." And, I look back real quick and I kind of take my foot off the gas and I look back real quick and you can see something move back into the woods. Like she kind of stepped out to kind of see what we were doing. And then, so yeah, I think, and that was the only first time, when I saw her that early morning, that was the only time I had a really clear look at her. And again, I never had clear looks at any of the other ones except for her. But their presence was known. Like when we have to go to walk to school, we're not walk to school, walk to the bus. The bus was up by the paved road. The bus stop was right there at that street lamp, that street light. And so, our house was like further down this road, so in actuality, we probably had to walk maybe a half a mile or a mile, to the bus stop, but we didn't walk. We didn't run, but we moved pretty quick, and you could hear things every once in a while, and our imaginations would get the better of us. But I honestly believe that they were escorting us up to the bus stop, because whenever we got underneath that street lamp where that light was showing, you know, everything felt better, you know? So,
No, those are awesome encounters, Daniel. I don't know how much time you have to stay on tonight, but is
let's
there
go. Let's keep going.
uh, what would be the next encounter you would want to talk about?
Well, let's see. When I started this podcast, not when I started the podcast, but when I really was able to look online, when the internet started picking up and stuff, and at first I thought YouTube was something stupid, and I was like, oh, only kids watch that, I'm not gonna have time with that, but then I started really looking at websites, and then I've seen there'd be links to YouTube channels and things like YouTube videos. I started watching these, and I was like, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a checklist. Let me make a checklist of things that these people talk about, and let me make a checklist of things that I remember happening to me, or things that I heard, or every time I would watch a video, I'm like, oh wait, I've heard that, and I would write that down, and I realized that prior to my sighting, I had two other encounters, and then after my sighting, I had two other encounters. Um, and I was like, this is crazy. I had these encounters. Now, encounters number, 4 and 5, uh, I had a pretty idea what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
But encounters 1 and 2, I was like 6 or 7 when the first one happened, and I want to say like 8 or 9 when the second one happened. The first one happened, my dad, um, he decided he wanted to take me hunting. He wanted to kind of introduce me to hunting, really. And it was at a time where it was not hunting season. So we weren't going to hunt. He just wanted me to kind of get acclimated to what it was like to sit in a tree stand. And he wanted to show me where, if it's something that I wanted to do when hunting season came around, I could sit up in the deer stand with him and I can understand what this area was. He wanted to show me what the game trails were, where they come from and where they intersected. So we go to this place that they called the hunting camp. And I want to say it was a little northeast of Aberdeen, Washington. And so we get there, we drive down this old logging road, we park, we hike into the woods, probably a good 45 minutes to an hour hike into the woods. And it's just me, my dad, my uncle. We set up the tent, and my dad walks me up to, the deer stand. The deer stand is about a half a mile, maybe three quarters of a mile from the camp. And I remember when you leave the camp, it kind of goes straight out, then it goes up this way, like up to the right, then it kind of snakes back around up to the left, and it goes up again, and then it snakes back around to the right a little bit, then it comes back up. Could you have gone straight up? Possibly, but why the path was like that, I don't know. And so we hike up here, and the whole time to the left, there's a stream that runs down here. Now the stream is just the clearest water you could ever see. Super cold. And it, again, from the campsite, it was maybe 50, 60 feet away from the stream to where our campsite was. And so as we get up to the top, I can see the deer stand. It looks like it's a homemade deer stand that my dad and my uncle had made, big enough to sit two people up there, or at least an adult and a kid, a young kid. And he says, okay, he goes, come on, let's get up in the tree. So I get up in the tree stand, and he's up there with me, and he's like, hey, look, I want you to look. He goes, over here, you have, you see these paths. These are game trails, and that's game trails where the animals they intentionally walk. It's just an area that they continuously walk. So they make these trails. And he goes, and right in front, you'll see that the two game trails, they intersect each other. about 25, 30 feet in front of the deer stand. Now behind the deer stand, there was like a small clearing. Was it a meadow? I don't know, but it had taller grass and like wildflowers growing in it and stuff. And ferns, and then there was the woods. Now the woods were probably maybe 100 to 200 feet behind the deer stand, and between that, the little meadow or the field or whatever you want to call it, clearing, that was maybe, I don't know, 25 yards, maybe
Right.
maybe 35 yards wide. And then how long it was, I really don't recall. And he goes, this trail, this game trail comes from here to here, right to left, and the other one comes left to right. The one that goes left to right goes down, and it goes down towards the stream. The other one goes down towards the path that we walk up, and then it goes back up and then over to the other set of woods are over here. So my dad shows me all this type of stuff, and we get down, and we go back down. We eat dinner, and then we go to bed. We get up the next morning. Now it's not super early. It's still kind of dark outside when we get up, and by the time we get going, the sun is just starting to come up. So you kind of get that morning glow, but it's still kind of dark. And so we go up and get up into the deer stand, and my dad's looking through his little knapsack, and he's like, dang it, I forgot something. I need to go get it. And so my dad looks at me. He's like, listen, he goes, you're going to be fine. I'm going to run back down the trail, go into the camp, grab what I need, and I'll be right back. I won't be gone that long. He goes, you're going to be safe. There's nothing out here that's going to hurt you. I'm like, okay, my dad's telling me this. I believe him, And so again, am I scared? Absolutely. I'm a little scared because I'm sitting up in this deer stand kind of in the dark by myself, but my dad said everything's going to be okay. So I believed him. So I'm sitting back in the deer stand. I got my left foot hanging out and kind of like near the edge, if not a little bit over on the left side of the deer stand. And I'm kind of watching and stuff, and I don't hear anything except for the sound of the stream flowing, right? And I start listening to that, and it kind of starts making me tired. So I kind of put my head down into my chest, and I just started getting hitting that part of sleep, and I felt my leg jerk, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I just woke myself up, because I'm falling asleep, but I don't want to fall asleep, but I fell asleep. And so I kind of look down, and I look and I go, holy crap, my boot's untied. I'm thinking it may have caught the wood or something like that. When I jerked my foot, I untied my boot. So I go and I tie my boot up again. And I'm kind of looking around, and trying to look everywhere I can and hear that stream again. And I start getting tired, and chin hits the chest. All of a sudden, my leg jerks again. Now, this time I know I did not jerk.
Right.
And I look down. It's a little lighter now. And I look down, and my boot's untied again. And I go, Dad, that's not funny. Stop messing with me. Right. So I go and I tie my boot, and I'm sitting there, and I'm laser locked. Now it's a lot lighter. Now I can see colors and things like that. And I'm just laser locked on my boot. And I'm sitting there looking, and I hear this loud crack come from the right of me. Right. So I snap my head over and I look, and my whole leg jerks again. And I look down, and my boot's untied again. And I stand up, and I just start screaming, this ain't funny, Dad. You're trying to scare me. And I'm flipping out at the top of my lungs. The whole mountain wooded area hears me screaming, right? And I look over and I see my dad like hauling butt up the path. He's like, shut up, shut the F up. You're not going to hear anything, or you're not going to see anything. You're up here screaming like a banshee. What's going on? And I go, Dad, you untied my boot. That's not funny. I don't want to do this anymore. You're scaring me. And he's like, what are you talking about? I go, you untied my boot. I'm like flipping out on him. And he's like, I did not untie your boot. I go, yes, you did. He was like, son, no, I didn't. And he goes, slow down. Tell me what happened. So I tell him everything that happened. And so he walks around the backside of the, oh, sorry, bud.
You're good, buddy.
He walks around the backside of the tree stand. Now I'm standing up on the tree stand. I'm hugging the tree, and I'm kind of looking behind us now. I'm keeping an eye on my dad. Like, what is he doing? And he's looking back and forth and back and forth. And I just want to preface this to say my dad was a Vietnam vet. Okay. Yeah. And so he starts looking, and he squats down and he touches the ground. He's kind of looking, and he does like this, and he goes like this. And then he goes and, hold on a second here. He stands up and he takes his rifle off of his shoulder. And it's a Marlin 30-30 lever action. So he's kind of looking, and he starts walking up into the meadow a little bit. And he's walking back and forth. And I realize what he's doing. He's doing a search, like a grid search. Yeah. So he's just kind of looking, and he gets, I don't know how close. I'm gonna shoot a guess, maybe 25 to 40 feet away from the tree line. And he stops, and he brings a rifle up, and he starts scanning left to right, right to left, left to right, right to left. And then he stops, and then he starts backing up. He starts backing up towards the tree stand. And he's like, Daniel, get out of the tree right now. So I'm like, what? He's like, I said, get out of the tree right now. So I get out of the tree. And when I get down, he's right there. He's like, listen, run back to camp as fast as you can. He's like, just go. Don't stop. I'll be right behind you. And so I start taking off, but I don't go very far because I don't hear my dad coming in behind me. So I stop and I look, and I see my dad. He's like focused on an area of the woods, and he's not moving too far. He's just kind of doing like one of these numbers back and forth. And he turns around and he sees me standing there. He's like, I told you to get your effing A back to the effing camp right now. Move. And like he's mad at me, I think. So I take off running, but I don't run that far because I don't hear my dad coming up behind me now. And we do this whole exchange a couple times before. Now we're both at a dead run, running back into camp. And as we come into camp, my uncle comes comes out of the tent. And my dad runs right to. He's like, what the F are you doing up there trying to scare Daniel? He's going off on my uncle. And my uncle's like, whoa, Dean, calm down. He goes, what are you talking about, man? And he told him what was going on. And my uncle goes, listen, he goes, it's too warm out here. He goes, we're not going to see anything at all because they're all bedded down. It's too warm, And my dad goes, we need to go right now. And so we packed everything up and we left. And that's what that was.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to him about that and ask him about what he thought it was?
He said it's not, he didn't see anything. It's what he heard.
Okay.
He said he heard something. Now, how my dad was, later in life, I now realize there were mountain lions up there. There were bear up there, and that's what I thought for the longest time, but he would never clarify. I thought maybe he heard a bear or he heard a mountain lion, but he never clarified what he heard. He just said he had the sense that something was not right. It just was not feeling right. And he decided we needed to get out of there. So.
Yeah. But would a mountain lion untie your shoe multiple times in a row?
No. Either would a bear. A bear.
Because it takes opposable hands and opposable thumbs to do something like that.
Absolutely. And then the other time we were in the same area, but it was me, my dad, my brother, my uncle, his best friend, and then two of his neighbors, and each one of his neighbors brought one of their sons. So it was four kids, 4 boys and 5 adult men. And we were just doing like a whole boys weekend, And so we go into the area, drove 3 pickup trucks. We parked on the old logging road. We walked down the embankment again. It's like an hour hike in there. We get to the camp. We set it all up. Hit one of those big army tents. You fit like 16 people in it, So, we had no problem with anybody, making their own tents. Everybody slept under one tent. And it's like the first day, when we got there, the kids were going crazy. I'd already been, like I said, maybe a year prior, maybe 2 years, if that. And We were up there just to goof off, have a camping trip. We were swimming in that stream because right in front of where the camp was set up, it was kind of like a slow part of the river or the stream. So there was like a nice deep pool there. And as soon as I walked up there, I saw fish. And I'm like, okay, we're going fishing, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking, these are some big rainbow trouts. And I was like, this is what we're going to be eating tonight. And so I go back up and I get my fishing gear. And my brother comes up behind me and he gets his fishing gear. And the other two boys, they're just standing there. And then me and my brother, we start casting a line. And no sooner did we put our line in the water, boom, we're getting hit. We probably pulled 15 trout just in maybe a matter of maybe an hour. And we go up and we bring all these fish up. My dad, he's cooking them and stuff. So we're having a good night. We go to bed, nothing. Wake up the next morning, I have breakfast. And again, we're all goofing off. We're walking around. And my uncle goes, hey, does anybody want to shoot some guns? And we're like, heck yeah, let's shoot. So he pulls out this little Ruger 10-22. And we're shooting this, just bang, 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 shooting as much as we can. And we reload it, bang, 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 bang. We're not shooting anything in particular. We're just shooting. We're trying to shoot like a big rock off of this cliff that was looking like right where the stream was. We're trying to shoot it down and see if it'll land in the water. And, we shoot probably 15, 20, 30 minutes maybe. And way off in the distance, I hear like this roar or this yell or something, right? And I look at my dad and I go, Dad, what was that? And he goes, I think it was a bear. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's a bear. Now, you understand, Bigfoot was not on my radar. I didn't even know what Bigfoot was at this time. It'd be a couple years later that I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film. So I had no clue what a Bigfoot was. Wasn't even in my vocabulary.
Right.
And so, we did some more shooting, then we ate lunch, and then we did some more shooting. We did some fishing, we did some swimming, had dinner, went to bed. Okay. The next night we get up, or the next night we hear something. I wasn't sure what it was. I kind of woke up and I look at my dad and I go, bear. He's like, yeah, I think so. I think so. I think these might be bear, And so we get up the next morning and I'd seen some tracks, but I wasn't sure what they were. No clue what they were, And, and it wasn't, nothing was disturbed in the camp. So that day, my dad and my uncle, they decided to divide us up into little groups, and they're like, okay, we're going to kind of show you around the camp and what kind of trees these are and what you can use to eat. And, if you get hurt, you can put this in your mouth and chew on it and put it on here, stay away from these plants because they're poisonous or what's up. And so they wanted us not only to have fun, but they were doing it to teach us some type of survival in case something should ever happen.
Yeah.
So we go off and, of course I see the deer stand up sitting up there still, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, remember my boot was untied there? He's like, yeah, I remember that. And, I go, I still think it was, I still said, I thought it was my uncle,
Yeah.
and, so we go back down and we, didn't catch any fish, but we had some stuff, food stuffs with us and stuff. So they made dinner and we cleaned up and we went and, we're getting ready to go to bed and we hear that yell or that roar again, but closer this time, like way closer. And I look at my dad and I go, Dad, that's a bear. He's like, yeah, that's a bear. So we go and lay down in bed and as you walk in the front flap, you had the two neighbors, my uncle's friend, and the two other boys on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, it was me, my dad, my brother, and my uncle. We all slept in rows like this, okay? And all of a sudden, I hear this noise. And again, it's between the hours of midnight and 2 probably, no watches, anything. But I open my eyes and I can see inside the tent. And I look over, my dad's sitting up. And my uncle and his friend are sitting up, but they're sitting in the middle of the tent. And 2 other dads are sitting up as well. And one of those old Coleman lanterns had a real low glow going about it. They didn't turn it all the way up. They had it set low. So it was letting off enough light to see inside. And I look at my dad And I look at my uncle and I look at his friend. Everybody has guns on. They all have rifles or handguns. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I go and I look at my dad. My dad's telling me to be quiet. And I hear a bunch of noise. Like our camp is just getting wrecked. Like I hear something like someone's ransacking our camp. And I'm sitting up and I got, I don't have my back up against the side of the tent, but the side of the tent's behind me. It's a canvas tent. And I go to look at my dad and to ask him a question. And then I hear something take its nails and drag it all the way around the side of the tent that I was on, around the back side of the tent, and then on the other side of the tent. And then you hear something run off into the woods, like making a ruckus. And so I look at my dad there's no way in heck I'm going back to sleep. I'm not. I'm wide awake. And so I sit up all night long, and my dad's up, my uncle's up, his friend's up. The two other adults had laid back down, but all the other kids, my brother and two kids, were sound asleep. And my uncle sees sunlight coming from underneath the front flap. And so he gets up and he slowly peeks his head out. He walks out, and all of a sudden I hear him say, "Dean, you got to come out and see this." Come on now. I jumped up quicker than my dad could. I go flying through that front flap, and a tornado. That's all I can say, that a tornado went through our camp. Lawn chairs were destroyed. Lids off of coolers were ripped off. Our food bags that were tied up in the trees, those were taken down. Anything that was not in a can was gone. Everything was gone. And the only things that did not get destroyed were inside our tent. So our backpacks, our guns, the deer sleds that they pulled all of the, all the gear and stuff in. We left, it was absolutely bananas. So I look at my dad. My dad says, "Get everybody up." So I get everybody up. The other two adults are already out there. My uncle's best friend's out there. And as we're packing everything up, they're not doing it neatly. They're just piling it together, putting it on these deer sleds. And as we're packing everything up, we hear this scream. And it's like, if there was a wall up, it was on the other side of the wall. I mean, that's how close it was. And I look at my dad, and my dad's like, "Let's go." And they start going. And it's the two neighbor dads and their kids, then my uncle's best friend, then it's me and my little brother, and then my uncle and my dad are bringing up the rear. And you have to understand, I think the oldest kid, I think he was maybe 10 or 11, and then the youngest was my little brother. I think he was 6 or 7. And we are moving as fast as we can. This is an hour hike into the woods, and we start taking off as fast as we could. The two youngest kids started just getting tired, so my uncle grabbed my brother, put him on a sled. One of the other dads grabbed the youngest kid of that group and put him on a sled, and now they're being pulled by two adults trying to haul ass through the woods. And I hear my uncle say, "I got one here on the left." And I hear my dad say, "I got one over here on the right." And I don't understand what's going on. And again, Bigfoot's not in my vocabulary. I'm thinking bears. I'm thinking a bear. Honest to God, I'm thinking a bear. And so we run, and we're running through the woods, and you could hear things moving all around us. And I see the embankment. We go up the embankment, and I immediately jump in the bed of the truck. That's the very first truck that you see. My dad runs by, freaks me out. My brother, he's in the truck we were in was a crew cab, so like an old logging truck. And my brother gets in the back seat of that. I want to say my uncle's friend was driving that truck. My dad gets in the bed of the truck, in the middle truck, and I know the other two dads were driving those trucks because my uncle got in the bed of the truck with me. And the other two boys were with their dads, I assume. And I hear someone hit the side of the truck or the top of the truck. That's a signal. for them to get out of there. And so they take off, and just as we probably get, I don't know, 35, 40 feet maybe, as we're driving down this road, my uncle just starts opening up. Boom, boom. And I mean, they're measured shots. He's just not shooting wildly. He's already identified a target and he's shooting at that target. My dad does the same thing. I hear his gun open up in front of us, and I'm kind of like looking. I get down real quick, and I hear him just shooting, and he's like, here they come, and they're just both shooting. And I peek my head up, and I see a branch or a stick come flying through the air, probably 6 to 8 feet long, like a spear. It comes flying through the air, and it goes right between the truck I was in and the truck my dad was in. And they hauled Bud out of there. And it's real rough for me to talk about sometimes, because I see my dad, who is happy-go-lucky, all excited about being out there with us and enjoying the time, to physically he was there. Mentally, he was not there with me. And I honestly believe my dad was back in Vietnam. And that's what I believe. And I felt that he was doing everything he can to make sure that we were getting out of there. Same thing with my uncle. And as far as I know, no one ever, at least I know me and my brother had never been back up in that area.
I can say one thing about your dad. He sounded like a really good dude, Daniel. And he was a man. He was a man's man. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, I know my dad was a man's man. To me, he was a giant. He was a hero. He was my Superman. He was all of 5'6", 5'7", maybe weighed $135, $140. I used to think my uncle was just as great as him, but I learned later in life my uncle was not really a good person. It was just, it's rough to see my dad go through things like that, because I can imagine, you just think about this, the Vietnam War wasn't even, this was like, Vietnam War ended for us in 1975, and 1982 I was 10, so this happened like 1978, 1979, maybe 1980, but still, Vietnam War was not even 10 years past. So it was like my dad was right back there,
Yeah.
And I thought that it could have been bears that were chasing us, but now looking through everything, it wasn't bears. Bears are not gonna do what happened to our camp. Just not going to. I know bears will tear up a camp, but not like this.
Well, a bear would have went in the tent. It wouldn't have stopped outside of the tent.
Yeah.
Like whatever that was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like it knew you guys were in there. So it was just scaring you guys on the outside is what it sounds kind of like to me. But
oh, for sure.
And like you said, you didn't even realize until you started doing your own research about other encounters that's possibly what this could have been when you were younger. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, that's what, again, for my very first encounter, my second encounter, I'm not going to come out here and tell you, I know for a fact 100% that it was a Bigfoot.
Right.
Because I never saw it. I heard things. And I heard things that other people who've had bona fide sightings, characteristics, what else could they be?
I agree with you 100%, man. That's sometimes if the shoe fits, that's kind of the way it usually lands. But
absolutely. What else you got?
Is there any more encounters that you'd like to talk about, Daniel?
No, it'll pull us. I'll ask her some more questions. I mean, I've had a couple more encounters,
Yeah.
But have me back for part 2.
Yeah, I was going to say we can have you back for part 2. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I know it's late.
Yeah. So, what other questions do you have? Because you said you had some questions.
Well, I do. Okay. So, of the encounters that you just talked about, which one was the most impactful or profound for you personally, and
The
why was it?
sighting. The
The sighting?
sighting. Because, the first two, I didn't really have any clue what it was,
Right.
but the sighting, out of those three, the sighting was absolutely one that really hit the nail on the head for me, so to speak. Okay, yeah, they're here. They
Right.
are what that's the day. That's the day I became not a knower, but not a believer, but a knower.
Yeah.
So
Well, we've talked about your encounters and stuff. What made you really want to get into doing a podcast and talking to guests and kind of getting encounters out there?
selfish. I wanted to be. I started for a selfish reason. And it wasn't that I started the Cryptid Podcast first. I actually had a podcast called The Paranormal Narrative, because I've had paranormal encounters. I've had way more paranormal encounters than I've had cryptid encounters.
No,
And
too.
and I wanted to start a podcast so I could talk with people, just so I could get validation for what I've experienced. And I wanted to know if other people, were ever touched by a ghost, or, had something whisper something in their ear, or felt like something touched them, or something grabbed them, or something. I wanted to know that. And then when I started that podcast, I was super excited about it. It was doing pretty good. And then I just got a series of really bad negative emails that were almost threatening. They wanted to talk about certain parts of the paranormal that I just didn't want to touch on. I didn't want to touch on demons. I didn't want to touch on possessions or black magic or witchcraft or things like that. And they were, the occult and sacrifices and that type of garbage. But the a couple emails that I had from people, I remember they came all in like just one day. I had like 8 or 10 emails from different people, and I replied, and it was all about the same thing, pretty much. Not just, it was all in that genre that I didn't want to touch. And I just very politely, after about the third one that I read, and I replied back, I copied and pasted my reply on the remaining ones of them. And all of them, were like, "Oh, hey, we understand. That's cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you or anything like this. Good luck on your podcast." But then out of those, there's like a couple more that just were getting very persistent and getting very negative and getting downright scary. And so I deleted the email, I deleted the channel, I deleted everything I had. Every episode that I had recorded, deleted. Every email that I had, deleted. Every note, everything that I wrote down, got rid of. And I went to went to Josh, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I did this," and he was happy because, he had some encounters. Something attached itself to Stacy when because they were investigators, they were ghost investigators,
Yeah.
and they stopped, and she had Josh promise that he wouldn't get involved in anything like that again, and I promised Josh that I wouldn't, because I didn't want to lose him as a friend. And I said, "But I like doing this podcast thing. I want to start. Is it okay if I do cryptids?" He's like, "Man, go ahead. I'll help you out." And that's what he did. And again, I started the Cryptid Podcast to be selfish, because I wanted to get that validation, that other people are encountering these things and that I'm not losing my mind. I'm not doing it for any kind of. I mean, do I make money off of doing my podcast? I do, but it's not a lot of money. But the money is ancillary to me, really. It's just I enjoy sitting down and talking with people. I enjoy. I mean, I would have never met you. Honestly, I would have never met you if I didn't start this podcast. I wouldn't have met a lot of the people that I've encountered, you know, uh, doing my podcast. But it all started out me as being a co-host on Josh's show. And then I wanted to do my own podcast. And here it is. And it's I started it in October 2024. Dropped my first episode in November, got monetized in January, and I think right now I'm at, let me see here. Come on now.
Everybody, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say it's a really good podcast. You guys should go check it out.
The Cryptid Podcast now has 3,340 subscribers. And as of today, I have 209,024 views. And I started in October 18th of 2024. Had my, like I said, my first, like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks, 3 weeks later, dropped my first episode. And it's just taken off from here. And I really enjoyed it. And you guys, if you guys like to join, subscribe to my podcast. It's the Cryptid Podcast. And I love doing it. I just love doing it. Any other questions?
We're glad you love doing it because it's a great show, guys.
I appreciate that, man.
Let's do one more question, and we'll call it a night. And thank you again for coming on.
Sure.
So, Dana, what would be your advice for someone who might have had an unexplainable encounter, but they're kind of hesitant to share their story?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question because it was over 30 years before I first told, my encounter. And the one I told the encounter was when it tried to tip over my camper,
Right.
That was on Sasquatch Chronicles. And, guys, don't rush into doing it. That's my biggest thing. I'm not saying wait 30 something years or 40 something years for it, but if it's something that's, it's weighing heavy on you and you've tried to talk to people and they're laughing at you, or accusing you of lying or anything like that, and you just shut yourself out from people from talking about that. There's people out here like Wyatt, myself, Josh, that will be more than happy to be like a guardian for your story. Even if you don't want to come on the show, let us know. And, I would love to hear any encounters you have, but just do it on your own time. Don't rush on it to rush to get it out. Just take your own time to make sure, watch a couple episodes, watch how the person talks with their guests. I'm sure Wyatt is the same way as me and Josh. Our podcasts are a safe haven for people who've had encounters that have been ridiculed by even family about having this encounter. And the last thing we want you to do is feel uncomfortable coming forward and telling your encounter, because again, it's your story. We don't know what the background is. We weren't there to experience it, but we can tell you that we've had our own encounters. So we kind of understand what you're going through. So, don't be so quick to rush to tell it. If you've been ridiculed, find someone who you think and that that you can trust, and just talk to them about it. It's good to get it off your chest. It's therapeutic, So yeah, I'm good for a couple more questions, man.
Okay. Well, give me 1 second. Got him right here. Oh. So we'll keep talking about the podcast for just a second.
Okay.
So what's the most challenging aspect of hosting a podcast about a topic that many people, they dismiss as folklore or fantasy?
What's the toughest thing about hosting a channel? Well, you've kind of got to develop kind of a thick skin, I see it every day. When I first started, I didn't see it as much, but as my channel grows, I see it a lot. I see, we call them trolls. They like to get in. They like to make some stupid comment. They like to try to get your goat, try to upset the rhythm of your podcast, especially if you're doing a live episode. They try to, really get in there and, yeah, I just don't let them get to it. I just don't let it get to me, man. I really don't. Now, if they say something really derogatory, I mean, I'm sure you've been in a couple lives when I was with Josh, doing a co-host with Josh, and someone said some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
I won't hold back. I will call you out. Granted, again, it's not it probably is not going to do that person any good, but it just lets them know, hey, go ahead, keep talking your spewing your garbage. You're going to get called out on it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very I'm old school when it comes to you want to keep letting your mouth flap and write checks your body ain't going to cover. You know what? Bring them my way. I'll cash them for you real quick. So
Yeah, I agree. What I always say to the trolls is, you don't believe me, come out with me. We'll go do some research together. We'll see what you think after that.
Put him on Richard's boat. Let him
There
take
you go.
take you right out to there. I guarantee you they're gonna and drop him off. Drop him off on that little peninsula right there. Go ahead, drop him off, and then just back the boat out a little bit.
Yeah.
And just
I mean, we wouldn't go too far away. We'd make sure we could still get them off the peninsula, but we'd let them have a little fun.
Yep, we'll let them sit there and scream for help. So
we'll finish up with this question. You've got your podcast out there, and it's doing really good things, in my opinion. But what do you hope your listeners take away from your podcast, especially those that might be a little skeptical, like we're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I don't do this to try to change anybody's mind. If people are going to believe what they want to believe, but I if anything, I hope that I can open people's mind to the possibility. To me, there is no possibility. It is what it is. I saw what I saw. What happened happened. I'm a knower. I'm not a believer. I'm a knower. And there's nothing wrong with being a believer, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to believe. You know, um, I just want people when they watch the channel, like, hey, this guy, you know, he seems like a really down to earth person. Guys, what you see is what you get. Really, what you see is what you get with me. If you watch my channel, I don't edit. I've maybe had to edit maybe 5 times total in any of my episodes. And the reason I don't edit is because I am who I am. I am what I am. You guys get what you see. And I want you guys to understand that. Now there's nothing wrong with people who edit, because that's just that's certain people's thing. Like Josh, you know, oh, all his videos are edited. You know, he'll take out, okay, well, there's a little glitch here, I'll take that glitch out. Or this person will go off on like the nuances of certain lighting, or they'll go off topic of what they're trying to talk about, and he'll cut that out. But when it comes to the core story, he polishes it up real well. He's not, by any means adding something to the story that isn't true. It's just he has the ability to edit a video. A lot of people have the ability to edit. I wanted to learn how to edit and do things like that, but then I asked a couple people. I asked people in my Facebook group. I asked people in my chat, should I do it this way, or should I just keep it raw? And a lot of people, dude, keep it raw, because that's who you are. And I want them to understand that I'm as genuine as I can possibly be. I have no reason to lie from you or lie to you guys. There's no reason. I'm not looking to become super famous on doing this. I just want to give people an outlet who've had a hard time dealing with something that just should never have happened to them. Some of these encounters have taken people's lives and turned it inside out and flipped it upside down. Like for me, with my last encounter, I no longer go deep in the woods. I'll go hiking in the woods, but I'm staying on the main trail. I am not going to take a side trail anywhere, even if it's a shortcut. It's not happening. It just won't happen. I've had a traumatic encounter, and it's changed my life, for the last 31 years. actually 33 years. It has changed my life for the last 33 years. It took something away from me that I absolutely loved doing, and never, ever did I ever think that I would have that taken away from me. So when people, they say, he understands where I'm coming from. He cares about his guests. I do care about my guests. And I will stand right in front of my guests to deflect as much garbage that people want to throw because they don't believe what my guest is saying. And yeah, has I had some encounters that people have told me that seem so outlandish? Absolutely, I have. But you know what? I wasn't there. I can't tell look at a person in the face, say, you're an absolute liar, because that never happened. It may have never happened to me, but it happened to that person. It could have happened to another person. I don't know, because I wasn't there. In this business, if you want to call that, in this entertainment or whatever you want to call it, you know, you have to take people for face value. No one has anything to gain to come on here and say, I haven't said this for 25 years. This is what happened with me and my granddad when we were out hunting out of his back of his property one time. This is what happened. This is what we saw. He hasn't said anything for 25 years to anybody. What makes you think he's doing it now to try to gain notoriety? A lot of the people that I have on have no desire to be front and center in anything. They just want to live their life, but this has impacted them in such a way that they need to talk about it, because they believe that if they don't get it off their chest, it's going to affect them even more in a negative way. So,
couldn't have said it any better myself, bud. That was a great answer. Well, guys, I think we're going to hop off here. Daniel, thank you again for hopping on with me tonight, and what a great interview, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, man. You're a good interviewer. I know you're starting out on this, man, but don't get discouraged. Keep doing what you're doing. And again, if you ever need help, let me know. And
really appreciate it.
You guys, before I jump out of here again, I'm Dano, the host of the Cryptid Podcast. I can be found on YouTube and Spotify. If you guys have had an encounter, you'd like to come on my show, then shoot me a message or shoot me an email at the Cryptid Podcast 72@gmail.com. I drop new episodes every Wednesday and Friday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Once a month, I drop a Saturday episode that my members, the Cryptid Crew, gets a early access to that and become a member on my channel. It's $2.99 a month. And with that, you get early access. And then you also get your names put in on drawings that I do periodically throughout, the months. And every Saturday night. So tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, I will be doing a live stream, and we're going to be talking about the East Texas golem, a couple other scary encounters with cryptids, and then who knows why. You've been in a couple of my chats, man. We talk about everything. We talk about the 80s. We talk about what food we ate, what clothes we wore, what music we listened to. We giggle, we laugh, we pray, we have a good time, and you never know what's going to happen on one of those lives.
It's a really good live show. I really enjoy it.
Well, man, thank you so much for having me on tonight. And again, if there's anything you need, I can help you out with. Don't hesitate to shoot me a message, give me a call, or we'll touch bases.
I'll definitely do it, buddy. I really appreciate you too.
Cool.
All right, guys. Daniel, if you don't mind to stay in the lobby there for just a second.
I got you, brother.
Go close this thing out. Hey, guys. Thank you for being with us again for another episode of Boone County Cryptids. If you've had an encounter and would like to share your story on the show, just email us at booncountycryptids@gmail.com. And if you guys check out the channel, we'd love to have a like, share, and a subscribe for you if we earn it. And just thank you again for watching. And if you guys could maybe have a chance to check out the GoFundMe for Josh and Stacy, set up for Joshua Smith and his wife, that would be great. Check out Mysteries Unknown, check out the Cryptid Podcast, and I'm going to give DA and his show a shout out. They've just rebranded it the Nightmare Hunter Podcast. Really great show. All right, guys. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to send in encounters, because even if you think your encounter is not important, it is. Every encounter is a piece to the puzzle, and it takes all the pieces to put a puzzle together. So until next time, guys, thank you so much.